last things we got to do on our Canon is sand up the wheels of this thing, and I'm going to show you what I got fixed here. Alright, I've sanded this side up pretty good, and I'm going to turn it over and do this. Now what I've got in the four jaw chuck here is just a piece, this is oak, just a piece of scrap, and I've turned down a cone. My cone could have been a little bit better tapered, but it's tapered. I want it to be up on here maybe a half inch, 3/4 of an inch, so I got some meat holding this thing on here. And then I have a live center that's just a taper, and all I'm doing is I'm just keeping these between centers, and I want this sticking out some, so I've got a little room. And then we'll just crank this down so it's not going to fly off on us. Move our tool rest out of the way. And I've got our lathe turned way down, so I know this thing's not balanced because this steel is certainly not balanced. So we got it on the lowest setting. My lathe's a variable speed, so I'll show you what we're doing with that. And we just got a piece of old sanding belt here, fairly rough to start with. And get this up out the way a little bit more. And you can see it's not balanced, but it does spin. That's what I was wanting, just to spin. And that way I can do the edges of the metal. And the back side, and it be still round, basically, keeping it in a flat orientation. Well, look at what we got, and it's sanding up pretty good. It doesn't have to be perfect, just got to be smooth. And this is fairly coarse grit, probably about 80 grit. And then I have 120 grit here to come back and make everything smooth. And we can even do the tire part with this if you want. And another dangerous part here is our four jaw chuck is open a little bit. This is sticking out proud of our side here, and it has gaps in it, so if you get your knuckles over in that, or your hand or something, a string or anything, it can wrap you up in here or beat the fool out of your knuckles. So you want to be careful of this section. That's why I'm not sanding back here. I'm only sanding on this side away from that. And so we just got just a little bit more to do on this one. And it's very safe, and it's going to give you a good result. And we got our good cleaned up sides, and if we see anything that we need to come back, I see a little more rust on this side. I wasn't doing as good a job on that as I could have. I can put it back in there at any point and sand it up a little bit more. But I think that's going to be pretty close. And that hasn't destroyed our hole, it hasn't messed up our wood, it's keeping everything level and flat and super safe. Can't fly off on you because you've got both ends attached. Yeah. Good morning. Welcome to the Virginia School of Traditional Arts. Today we're going to finish up our cannon. We're going to put our faux paint on the actual cannon. We've got it primed, double primed, and then we have 2 coats of the brown on all of our pieces. I have my palette of paint. I'll show you what I got. I've got brown, black, white, and a little red. And we're going to start with a darker than this brown and put some streaks on it, and then we'll let that dry, and then we're going to come back and we're going to put a lighter than this brown, put some streaks on it. And what we're using for brushes are custom made little brushes that we tear up. Basically, we cut all the bristles we can off of them and just leave them really hairy and raggedy at the end. And what we're going to use for paint is just a little teeny bit of paint, and then we've got some paint thinner. This is oil-based paint, and so what we're going to do is we're going to thin our paint down a little bit, and we're going to paint this thing. It'll look streaky, and that's what it's supposed to look like. It's supposed to look like wood grain. And so what the first step is, this stuff's been sitting in the shop overnight, so it's dust in the air, of course. We're going to wipe off the actual parts we're going to paint. And this item in particular has a very distinct grain in it anyway. We probably could let it go with just what it is, just brown, and be fine with that. I'd probably do that myself, but I told the gentleman I would faux paint it, so I'm going to. And this will add some depth to it. So we're going to start on the bottom. Always a good place to start in case we're messing up. And we're going to start with our raggediest big brush here. And we're going to touch in our brown. And just get a little brown on this and a little black. Maybe just a teeny bit of the red. And we're just mixing us up a custom color right here. I don't know if you're able to see that or not. Just a little custom color. Supposed to be just a dark brown. That's what we're looking for. And then, once we got our color, then we take a clean plate and we're going to basically just do this and get most of the paint off. And then we're going to come in here and we're going to make, you got to pretend that you're a board. You got to know how a board's going to run. So we're going to run our board this way. Then we'll come back and get a little more paint. And we're trying to start all the way up in the crease of this thing. And then we'll do the sides over here. Make them run out. That's probably the hardest part on this thing, is that it's together. If this was apart, this would be absolutely no problem to do this. And we're going to do the parts that will show. We're not going to paint down in these square notches because no need. Not going to show. And then, like I said, we'll give that a few minutes. Just adding a little depth to these items so that they look like wood, basically, instead of just spray paint, solid spray paint. So that one. And on something like these wheels, this will show some, but it's not a big enough piece to really show pretty grain on. Alright, so we've let our side dry a little bit, our bottom, so we're going to flip this back over. And we're going to get us a little more paint. Get us a little more paint thinner on this because it doesn't want to come off good. Thin your paint down, that'll help. Pieces. So we're going to make sure it's good here. Alright, this is after the second coat. We put a dark coat on first, just streaks, not coating it at all, but streaks. And then we've come back, we've mixed us up another custom color, just lighter brown. The particular colors really don't matter, because if you don't like it, you can always hit it again with a different color. But pick a color that you like. You know, you're just dipping a little bit in the, what we did was brown, red, and white on this one, just a little bit of red. Not, you do too much red, it turns pink on you. And just a little bit lighter color brown. And so now this item has three colors on it. It has the original brown, it has a darker brown, and it has a lighter brown. If you're happy with that, you can stop. I'm going to come back, I'm going to let this dry, and I'm going to come back and put a little bit of more, a little more dark on it in streaks, because that's the way real wood is. It has dark and light and dark, little streaks all over. So now that we have some light on there, we can see it a little easier, and we'll just put a few more dark highlights on it, and I'm gonna call that good. All right, while our paint's drying, we're gonna clean our brass. When we buff it, it leaves a residue on there. So again, we're gonna use our brake parts cleaner and spray it on a little paper towel, just a little teeny bit. Doesn't take much of this, and I've already cleaned some of these, and that's why the towel is like. We're gonna clean them, and when you do this, you can really see if you've got it buffed or not. If it's not buffed enough, we'll take it back to the buffing wheel and hit them again. But this takes out all the residue from the buffer. See, as you can see, they're dirty. And so this is going to take us a good, probably an hour to do all these little pieces. But we're going to do all these, check them over real good. If they need buffing again, we'll put them back on the buffing wheel, buff them again. Some of these are hard to buff, especially these rings. It's difficult to buff in here. You can buff the outside pretty good. And if I have to do these again, I may lay a piece of leather strap through here so I can hold it. The leather won't scratch it. And the same with these washers. Now I think some of these washers were just brass colored, because when I buffed them, I think some of the color came off. But we'll pick out the best looking sides to put out. You know, that's just how stuff works. We'll take a few minutes and clean all this stuff up and take a picture of it for you. We've got our pieces cleaned up. These turned out very nicely. Some of these I could have sanded them a little bit more, but I was afraid this thing sticks in the slot, see? Sticks in this slot. And I was afraid to get it too little that it wouldn't do its job. Because it's still got a few scratches in it where, well, it ain't really scratches, just where it was rough, and it didn't get sanded down completely smooth because I stopped before. Like I said, I was afraid I was getting it too little, so I stopped on those. But I buffed them, and they're plenty good for what we're doing. But if you were doing like a knife or something, you know, a watch or something that was really, you're gonna really see all the time, I would probably go back and resand these and buff them again. But I think for what we're doing, this is a Canon, and it's going to be shoved in and out of there multiple times over its life, so it's going to get scratched up. So I think that's good enough for what we're doing. I went and found us some new Carter pins, Carter keys. The original ones are just ever so slightly longer, and they're just a little bit fatter, but I think these will work. And these were seeming to be a little bit too long, in my opinion, anyway. But we'll put them in there and get them to work. And we got to pull our tape. We painted the I don't know what these parts are called really. These were like I thought they were all thread, but they're actually bolts that somebody's manufactured, because you can't buy this. It's a piece of 1/2 inch round stock with threads on both ends, and they're two different lengths because our carriage is tapered. It's not the same all the way down. But we did paint them up black these had rusted significantly, and these were the culprit of making those big dark stains on our Canon when we first had it. The person that had left it outside, these had started rusting and staining the oak, and I sanded on it some. I didn't try to sand it all out, but I sanded on it some and it didn't come out at all. So my suspicion was you're going to have to sand on that for a while to get some significant wood off of that before that stain to go away, if you could ever get it to go away. But they turned out nice. And I did run the drill bit back through the holes because these were fairly snug coming out, and so I run a 1/2-inch drill bit back through the hole and kind of wallowed it just a little bit before I started the faux painting, and hopefully these will slide in easy and won't scratch our paint up. If it does, we'll just touch it up with a brush, but we'll have those. But everything's turning out okay. Like I said, we've got some new Carter keys. That's what I was searching for. And this is all of our brass pieces cleaned, ready to put back together. Alright, jumped the gun just a smidge and forgot to put my salve in this hole. This is beeswax, 50% beeswax, can't talk, and walnut oil. You get the walnut oil at the supermarket where they sell olive oils and salad dressings and that kind of thing. And I just grate up the beeswax, pour it in here, or dump it in here, and then pour the rest of the container, not quite full, but of walnut oil, and microwave it for a minute and stir it up, and you get this. And this is what I use for my bowls and my food safe finishes, but it's also, we're going to use it for a lubricant that's not messy, not grease or anything. And this is fairly salve consistency. This particular batch is. It's got a little more olive oil in it than, or not olive oil, walnut oil in it than some of the others I've made. But we're just going to put that on each end of this pegs here just to make it slick. And we're also going to put some down in the holes of each wheel, the hole of each wheel. And shouldn't be any change to our finish at all. This is not going to dissolve it or anything. You put grease on this, liable to dissolve your oil-based paint, which is what I used. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And another thing I discovered when I put the first wheel on is I didn't choose which way the Carter key was going to point. And I guess that's not a critical error, but if you're going to make something that's decorative, or as good as you can make it, I want all of it to look the same. And so we're going to make sure we're putting them on so they'll match. And so we're just putting some of this in each tire in the hole, so we don't have to think about that part anymore, because I had forgot all about that. Alrighty. Now we're going to go back to our Carter key fixing. This is the part that'll be down with the washer indentation, and this will be up. And so we're going to take our wheel. We'll do the one we just did. We'll take our wheel and make sure we're putting the outside out. We'll put our Carter key in here, and we'll pay attention to that this time. So this will be up. The no washer sign is up, and so we'll put our Carter key in that direction, and then we'll bend it, and we'll be in great shape. We have our Carter key back in here. And that's what we have. We'll hold it still for you. And it spins very nicely now that we've got that little bit of lubricant in there. Alright, these wheels roll so easy, they roll by themselves. Let me set it here and I'll show you. It's just rolling by itself. I ain't even pushing it. It's just barely a hill there. So that is wonderful. That is much better than what we had to start with. And we're going to Set that aside for a moment. I'm gonna drag this piece over here. Hey, we got something long enough now. We got us a aluminum welding rod. And we just want to make sure that that's lining up and that this one lines up in the same orientation. There you go. Get too crazy, we'll put this other on, make sure it's going to hit the hole. Alright, make sure nothing's rubbing. And then we're going to tighten her up. And on these, anytime you've got a screw going into wood that you can really torque on, like these, oh shoot, what do you call these things? Lag screws, what they call. You get them down in there, but don't go keep cranking on them because you will tear the threads out of them. On the other, I gotta get this thing started just so. There we go. Constructed to start with, but we fixed her up pretty nicely. Wipe off the debris or anything, but there's our little, I think that looks very nice compared to what it was. Turn this thing. Put these rings back in. And there's two of these little U's, so they may be slightly different. You just gotta check them. That one looks like it fits a little better. It's a little better. Alright, there's our ring back on. Ring. Looking at it, see, make sure we're going right. Alright, that went in easy. And now we have some the bolts, I guess, for lack of a better term. And they are two different lengths, so you got to pay attention to that. I did run the drill back through these holes just to clean them up a little bit where they had been wet laying outside, and we painted these bolts trying to keep them from rusting, so we'll try to get them in there without scratching them up. And that has a washer and then an acorn nut is what they call that. On both sides. Again, equal go, looking good. We'll put a wrench on those just in a minute. But then we have the other major pieces are these. And so let's put these in here first. That just falls in, so that's probably the one that came out of there. I don't know though. Yeah, let's do that. I'm going to leave those up just a smidge. I may have to turn them like I'm doing right there to get them to lay flat. And so we'll put that on and then figure out if this is the right one for this hole. Yeah, that falls right down in there. Alright, when we drive that one in, we'll check this other one, make sure that we're happy with them. Yeah, that looks like that's fitting. Alright, so we'll drive those in. And we can leave room so it'll operate. It actually operates better than it did before. And so with those in place, we can knock these parts on down. Yeah, that's starting to look like something. And then we have these little pieces. It's a little screw, wood screw kind of end on this side, and a flat screwdriver bit, and it held these parts with this little split ring, and I took it off to be able to polish it. I had to find me a pair of scissors. Alright, we're putting this split ring together. This it's like a key ring kind of thing, and what I'm going to use the scissors for is a wedge. Basically, I put the scissor inside the thing, and then I can push it up as much as I need it to open it up as much as I need. And we can start our hole out of this thing with it. Alright, there we go. We got her started on there. Once you get her started, it ain't nothing but like a key, just spin it around. Okay. And these screw into holes right here. You can turn it with your little key ring thing for a little while, but after a while you're going to have to switch to your screwdriver. There you go. And just got to be in there. There we go. That looks right. And I may take a little of our salve here and rub in this part right here just a little bit so it doesn't tear up our paint, make this a little slick. We'll wipe off the excess with a rag. Make that a little slicker so it don't tear up our paint. I think that will help. Alright, let me get my hands clean again. Get all this arranged. Get set them over in there. Shut your cannon parts. I don't know which direction that's supposed to grab, really. Just like that, and this little piece goes in the back, what you aim it with. There she rolls. Alright, that's our cannon build. Man, that was a long time coming. I worked on this, like I say, for 9 days. Took every bit of it apart, sanded every bit of it. Painted all, primed, double primed it, painted it all, and got her looking in good shape. Man's main complaint was it wouldn't roll. It rolls nicely now. We cleaned up all the brass, cleaned up the barrel, faux painted all the wood back to where it was in good shape, and we're going to call him and tell him to come pick it up before we tear it up in here in this shop, messing up something else. If you've liked this video, please like and subscribe. Thank you for staying with us. We appreciate you watching. I thought this would be an interesting one because I've never done a cannon prior to this, and so we put some time and effort in this and made it look as good as we could possibly make it. And if you're in town on the first weekend in May in South Boston, Virginia, there is a Heritage Festival. And that's this weekend, and this video will probably come out just after that. But if you're in town, stop by and see us. I'll be blacksmithing over there, and I'll do it every year. So if you missed this year, catch us on the next one. And the gentleman that has this cannon is part of a cannon group, and they bring their cannons and shoot their cannons over there. It's all a bunch of fun. And I do blacksmithing. There's some folks that do Native American crafts. There's old-time circle sawmill, the Amish run, and tons of old equipment, tractors, and stuff you've never seen before. It's just amazing, all the stuff that comes over there. They have the fancy cars, they have car show and that kind of thing, and so it's really interesting. So South Boston, Virginia, the Heritage Festival. It's the first weekend in May each year, and I appreciate y'all stopping by and checking us out. Thank you. See you on the next one.